Buzzaar. It's such a special feeling to be doing, to be addressing so many friends, so many readers, so many book lovers out there on the occasion of India's 74th Independence Day. It is I mean, this whole feeling of winning freedom from the British, of fighting for our freedom, of of sort of coming together as a country to achieve a great goal. There is just something so inspiring about this, and I think it's relevant and important that generations of us, adults and children, pass on these stories, so that there is that great feeling of being Indian. Of course, what does independence really mean to us? What does it particularly mean to our children? I mean, is Independence Day merely a celebratory holiday? Or is it a day when we hoist our national flag and feel particularly patriotic? Is it, that we feel that we have to celebrate the great men and women, the brave men and women who fought to win us freedom from the British? These are a couple of challenging questions that I think, that I think perhaps is something that we must have conversations with our children about, especially in these modern times. I mean, in these COVID times, what does freedom particularly mean to us, when many things that we were able to do prior to the lockdown and prior to COVID, when all those freedoms have actually been taken away in some ways? What does this whole concept of freedom mean? And what is personal freedom vis-a-vis the freedom of a nation? What we felt we'd do is to explore this in the one way that everyone at Funky Rainbow knows how to do it, through children's books, children's and young adult books. So all our recommendations today are going to be on the theme of India, of the theme of freedom, the theme of independence. But even before we get started, even before we start off, even before we start off, we felt as a team that here's just a little thing that we should listen to, that wonderful moment when India made her tryst with destiny.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. A moment comes, which comes but rarely in history, when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance. It is fitting that at this solemn moment we take the pledge of dedication to the service of India and her people, and to the still larger cause of humanity.
That speech still gives us all goosepimples. I mean, India making her tryst with destiny 74 years ago, just at the stroke of the midnight hour. And really, those powerful words, I mean, they resonate time after time after time in our ears. And But what we need to see is, do they resonate with our children? Is it just something that they end up learning at school? Is it just another speech that you need to remember? I know for all of us at Funky Rainbow, given the generation that we belong to, it's possibly not the case, and we really do feel very, very proud and very, very Indian listening to that speech. But today what we will attempt to do, and of course, there's every chance that the next generation and the generation after that feels exactly the way we do. But the lovely way to strike up conversations about this whole concept of freedom and about our struggle for independence, which was perhaps one of the most tumultuous periods in our history, the great way to open conversations about this period is, of course, through books. So I'm going to start off the bazaar this morning with a reading a small segment from a speech that I think gives us a lot about the foundation of this country. And I'm going to just quickly read it before I pick some books that reflect the theme. This is Swami Vivekananda and his address at the Parliament of World's Religions on 27th September 1893. He says, "Do I wish that the Christian would become Hindu? God forbid. Do I wish that the Hindu or Buddhist would become Christian? God forbid. The seed is put in the ground, and earth and air and water are placed around it. Does the seed become the earth or the air or the water? No. It becomes a plant. It develops after the law of its own growth, assimilates the air, the earth, and the water, converts them into plant substance, and grows into a plant." I felt it was just important to read these lines to say that secularism is the bedrock of the Indian constitution and should be the bedrock of our nation, given whatever the challenges that we face at any given point in time. And the first clutch of books that I would like to sort of recommend around the theme of secularism there is this wonderful book that published by Pratham called One Day in August, written by author Bharti Jagannathan and illustrated by Prashant Soni, which is this beautiful story of two friends against the backdrop of partition. Now, Kishan, one of the protagonists of the book, and he's grazing his cows. And one day in August, the cows, seem to wander away into an unknown territory, leading both Kishan and his best friend Shagufta, who is with him, into uncharted territory. It's a gentle, beautiful story of love, friendship, and innocence set against the backdrop of partition where millions of people lost their lives. Now, against that backdrop, the importance of their religions, what happens to them in the story, what happens, do they become aware of the fact that there is such a giant incident playing out at the backdrop of their lives? Both Kishan and Shagufta, who go away to find Kishan's cows, actually end up in a sort of unknown territory and where dangers lie ahead. Bharti Jagannathan is a teacher of history, and she has done a beautiful job of blending story and history together to put out this wonderful book. I wouldn't say it's a picture book for the youngest of readers. As you can see, it's fairly text heavy. Lots of sepia tinted pictures, of course, in the book. Beautiful sepia tinted pictures, but quite a lot of text. So we would say definitely, 7+ year olds could read this book, would enjoy this book. But it's also a story that can be read aloud, to younger readers. A gentle story of love, friendship, and the innocence of childhood against the backdrop of a dramatic incident in our history. Highly recommended read. One Day in August, priced at 45 rupees, published by Pratham. Of course, like I said, it does explore Kishan's Hindu, Shagufta's Muslim, and what happens. Does friendship get tested? Does their friendship get tested anywhere? They're young children, of course, so friendship fortunately comes first, but does it get tested in the name of religion? It's a great starting point for some wonderful conversations with young readers. The second book in this, as part of this segment, which sort of focuses, which sort of reiterates the idea that secularism was and is and should be the bedrock of any progressive country's journey into the future. So the second one, again, and I particularly love this book called The Rain, written by Swati Raje and illustrated by Chandramohan Kulkarni. This one's been translated from the Marathi by Savani Raje. It's a beautiful picture book, about a little village, of Anandpur. I'm going to show you some of these gorgeous pastel shaded illustrations. And you can see that it evokes the mood of the little village so beautifully, these illustrations. The thing is, this village has a lake that stores the water of the village. And this village, I'm sorry, runs out of water at one point, and the people get together deciding to dig up a space to fill water and make it into a lake, so there is enough water for everyone at the village. Now the thing is, the lake is the thought of building the lake, the entire village comes together to do it. And then there's the question of the name of the lake. Now, what happens in the course of the book is, and of course, the protagonists of the book are two children called Raju and Rafiq, and their fathers, that is Raju's Baba and Rafiq's Abba. Now, what happens is that, Rafiq's Abba actually says that the lake is going to be sort of built in front of the temple, so let us name it Ram Lake. Everybody, of course, in the village likes the idea, but that night there is a visitor who comes to the village and comes from the city to Rafiq's neighborhood. His question immediately is that why should it be called Ram Lake, giving the importance to some other god? Can it not be called Rahim Lake? It's a beautiful way to explore, explore the fact that sometimes we get divisive in the names of absolutely the wrong things. And is that absolutely worth it? The answer is a resounding absolutely not. However, it's a great way. This story, what happens? Is it Ram Lake? Is it Rahim Lake? Do the villagers stay together? This whole concept of religion, this whole concept of being people first over and above belonging to any religion comes through so beautifully in this excellent book published by Jyotsna Prakashan called The Rain. It is in translation, so sometimes the words can be a little bit clunky, but that said, it's a great starting point, to have many conversations with our young readers about the nature of secularism in India. We would again say this would work for, children 6+, 7+, perhaps, because, the text is heavy on a couple of pages. For instance, look at that spread, where the text is fairly heavy. So I would definitely say 7+. The Rain by Swati Raje, and priced at 75 rupees, published by Jyotsna Prakashan. The third book is a rather simple one. I mean, third book that reflects this theme and talks about a diverse country. The fact that different people come together to make our country the diverse and sort of colorful country that it is. And this one is a little picture book called Good Morning India. It's written by Satadru Mukherjee and illustrated by Shashwata and Sushruta Mukherjee. This is a simple story of children. For instance, there are the protagonists in the book are again Kashif, Christina, and Aman, and they're all going to school. You, the reader, gets to join them to celebrate India's diversity and unity. As they walk along, they notice different diverse things about India, the different aspects that come together to make India the diverse and united country that it is. This is actually for the youngest of readers, fairly simple, very large text, as you can see, very large text in the on the pages, and very little text on each of the pages. So this is a picture book that would definitely work for the youngest of readers. It's a little bit packed, of course, but it still sends home the message that in unity and diversity is our beauty. So this one is priced at 195 rupees and published by Scholastic India. The thing is, all these books, of course, as I began the Buzzaar, I forgot to mention that all the books are up on our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. They are Mutama, what have we called them? They are Independence Day Bazaar, right? They all Independence Bazaar. Okay, they're all under a segment, under a header called Independence Bazaar. All the books are available at discounted prices at the Independence Bazaar. So please, please go to log into www.funkyrainbow.com, go to the section called Bargains, click it. Once you click it, all the books that are showcased in this bazaar will come up. I know many of you look at the homepage and find that there are 5-6 books up there and are not able to look at the rest of the books in the Independence Bazaar. Thing is, go up to the top of the site, click the section that's called Bargains, and all the books that are showcased in this bazaar, are available at special prices for the next week. Between today and Thursday, the coming Thursday, up to the coming Friday. And you could definitely take a look and pick the books that interest you the most. I know lots of you write into us on WhatsApp, which is at 99004 We only have limited copies of most of these books. So it's quite hard if you make a request to say, please keep it aside for me. If you make a request to do that, we can only do that after that sale period is over, because the books are already put online, and if we pulled it out, then we'd have to adjust the stock positions physically, manually. We would need to do that. So I really urge you, take your time. There is a whole week. Spend a couple of days looking through the collection. Yes, I understand that there are limited copies of many of these books, but we're doing our best. In case the books are not there, please do just send us a message. We are doing our best to restock many of these titles as quickly as possible. I will move on to one more picture book, which is not really, about the theme of secularism, but I think it's a colorful picture of the kind of, unique chaos that makes India. This one's called Excuse Me, Is This India? By Anita Lutweiler and Anushka Ravishankar. It's a beautiful book, in fact, it's a, the illustrations are all, sewn together. If you can see, it is, it's a patchwork kind of illustration in the book, done by Anita Lutweiler. Very, very beautiful, and, accompanied by it is Anushka's lovely story in rhyme. It is a story about discovering India in all its chaos, splendor, color, and diversity. And I think it does a great job of introducing contemporary kids to something that's uniquely Indian. This particular form of pell-mell chaos, confusion, diversity, and color. There is something quite so Indian about it, and I think this charming picture book in rhyme, with these beautiful patchwork illustrations, does a great job of introducing the modern reader to to the kaleidoscope that India really is. So I would certainly, this one's published by Tara, very, very gorgeously produced by Tara and priced at 200 rupees. I love one of the particular illustrations, in the book. You can see that, a lot of folk art has gone into the patchwork. You can see that the cow and the little birds and the buildings and the people, they're all beautiful patchworks, that really bring alive the beauty of our country. It's a very nice book, and I think it sort of really aids this is a book that will really help children travel in their mind. We're all locked down, but this book will help them travel quite beautifully across the country, into the little gullies and to the markets and to to the main roads and into little villages in their imaginations. So a fantastic story of travel, told through a child's imagination and illustrated with exquisite patchwork art, that introduces India to young contemporary readers. I think this would work, for children. If you're reading aloud, you can read aloud to a child as young as 4. If the child has to read on her own, possibly a little older, maybe, by age 6, is what we would recommend this book. Excuse me, is this India? That's the age group that we would recommend this for. So that is one, set of picture books that I, sort of wanted to focus on. I would like to move on, and today's bazaar is going to sort of mix picture books with chapter books, with books for middle grade readers and young adults. And it was quite surprising that when we started to look at the books specifically, we found a whole clutch of them sort of set just prior to the Quit India movement in 1942. And I'm going to sort of share, info about a couple of these books. Quite surprisingly, actually, we did know that all of these were based on the theme of independence, but that so many of them pegged their story, around in the late 1930s and the early 1940s was quite a discovery. Even if we'd read each one of these individually, when we looked at them collectively, that's when we said, obviously, 1942, plays a pretty played a very, very big role in our struggle for independence. In fact, I'm going to just, read a short extract from a speech, that Mahatma Gandhi gave just on the eve of the Quit India movement on 8th August 1942. This is what he says. Here is a mantra, a short one that I give you. You may imprint it on your hearts and let every breath of yours give expression to it. The mantra is do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt. We shall not live to see the perpetuation of our slavery. Every true congressman or woman will join the struggle with an inflexible determination not to remain alive to see the country in bondage and slavery. Let that be your pledge. What powerful words. I mean, most historians concur that the Quit India movement pretty much nailed, put the last nail on the coffin of the British rule in India. It inspired a whole millions of Indians to come together to free the country from British rule. And hence, wonderfully, many, many children's books pegged around this significant event. I'm going to start with, the one that is perhaps one of our favorites in this collection. This is Ahimsa by author Supriya Kelkar. It is squarely and beautifully set in 1942, and it tells the story. And I'm sure many of you are already familiar with the story of Ahimsa, because the book has been very popular and very well received, ever since it was published. It is 1942, and 10-year-old Anjali's mother has decided to let the family, her family responsibilities go and join the freedom struggle. Now, what happens? Anjali, unwillingly gets involved in the turmoil that follows. She has to, because her mother is part of the struggle and she can see the very real things that are happening around her in the course of the Quit India movement. She has to absolutely give up her biases, the sort of biases that get built in us, as even as young children, because you hear adults around you talking about different things. Anjali has to give up her biases against the Dalit community, the so-called untouchables, and sacrifice her foreign made clothes for khadi. What happens? Does Anjali's world turn upside down? Does she resent her mother for dragging her into something that she was not so willing to be a part of? And does she even understand the courage that her mother has shown in being part of the 1942 Quit India movement, and a part of a group of people that are striving to bring social reform in India? This is actually, Supriya Kelkar says that she was inspired by her great grandmother's experience of working with Mahatma Gandhi. And in her book, she raises so many pertinent questions about the identity of India, about the kind of biases that we have, even within ourselves, even if we consciously make an attempt to steer clear of the biases, how some of them slowly get ingrained in us. And it is a tribute to so many unsung heroes of India's War of Independence. It is a powerful, mighty read, and we highly recommend it for readers who are 10 plus. It's a most wonderful story that situates the revolt, of the Quit India, movement in 1942 so beautifully in context. This is published by Scholastic India and priced at 395 rupees. Hi, good morning, Shantanu Datta Gupta. Your book up here, and many salams for having published this fantastic book, whose cover we particularly love. It almost just takes your breath away. Not almost, it actually just takes your breath away. A beautifully designed cover for this wonderful book about a girl and her story of whether she can make a difference to the destiny of a nation. Joanne, reading this, beautiful and eye-opening. Thank you, Joanne. You say you're reading Ahimsa. It is truly a powerful book, and it is a book that I think it's not a book that pussyfoots around issues. It actually, yes, it instills a feeling of patriotism, but it also raises very pertinent questions through the eyes of a 10-year-old girl about the biases that that creep into our lives, unwittingly, and what we can do to defeat them, and why it is so important to, especially when you're coming together for a larger cause. And in this case, it is the independence of India, why it is, so important, to learn to be as free in your mind as you can possibly be. An excellent book by Supriya Kelkar, Scholastic India's Ahimsa, priced at 395 rupees, available at the Buzzaar at a special price. I'm going to move. Like I said, this segment, and it really was surprising that we got so many books, that focused on the late 1930s and the early 1940s, specifically the Quit India movement, which, I mean, we know that it was a watershed, in the Indian independence struggle. And it's no surprise that so many writers have pegged their stories around this significant period of Indian history. Our next one is again, a wonderful writer who has only written for adults, Chitra Divakaruni Banerjee, and this is her only book for children. This one, called Victory Song, written by her, is a lyrical, and I literally mean it, it's a lyrical story of, our struggle for independence. In this case, the book is set in 1939, and the freedom fighters in the book will stop at nothing till they send the British back. Now, this is the scenario in which 12-year-old Neela arrives in Calcutta with a mission. She comes from a little village, and she has come to Calcutta because her father has been jailed for being part of a protest march. And she has come because she wants to do everything she can to rescue him before he gets deported to the Andaman Islands, before he gets sent away to Kala Pani. Can this little girl, and what I love about these books, be it Ahimsa or Victory Song, is that young people, in that it was a 10-year-old Anjali, in this it's 12-year-old Neela, they are the agents of change. And we all agree wholeheartedly that our world can become the beautiful place that we want it to become only if young people do, get inspired to be the change that they want to see. So this one, can this little young girl outwit the mighty British Empire? It's a racy adventure. It is. And what was very nice was, yesterday I was reading an interview with Chitra Divakaruni, and she says that she decided to write it when she was studying Gandhi. When she was sort of looking at two revolutionary leaders, Gandhi and Bose, and the kind of contradictory stances that the two of them took in order to achieve freedom. She said that, Subhash Chandra Bose and Mohandas Gandhi, she both had two approaches, one non-violent, one violent, but both had the same goal. And some of those issues are tossed up quite wonderfully in the book, which means it's a great starting point again for conversations in the modern world. Does violence justify the end to if the end, or if the goal is something that is very good, does violence justify it? These are the precise questions that we need to bring up with our children. We need to show, and there are no right or wrong answers, really, right? We have to let children arrive at these decisions, arrive at these conclusions on their own. And we may not conclude ever in our lifetime, but we can continue to read to make sure that, we keep our minds, our horizons broad enough to accept different things that happen in our history. Archana Natraj, you said grade 4 book club loves this particular book. I'm so glad each and every week, we have people telling us that these books are being used in real life cases. They're being read in the real world. They're being read in schools. They're being read in public places. And it's just delightful that so many Indian children's books have made their way out to children out there, just so that they have a sense of who they are and what their history entails. So this one by Chitra Divakaruni Banerjee, published by Penguin, priced at 199 rupees. Again, another one in a similar vein, written by a doyen writer for adults, Shashi Deshpande. This one, called The Narayanpur Incident, is set specifically on 8th August 1942. It refers to pretty much the speech that I read out before I got into the segment. Quit India, Gandhiji tells the British. And of course, the very next day, him and several other leaders are put into jail because the British are just overwhelmed by how many Indians came forward in response to Gandhi's do or die call. Now, in the midst of this, and of course, several Indians came out in protest the minute Gandhi and several other leaders were arrested. And in this story is set, tells the story of two little boys, Babu and Manju, who suddenly find themselves caught in the chaos when their school closes down and their father is put, behind bars. Their brother, one of their, their brothers, and, their brother Mohan is, actually has to go around, and what was a sleepy little village untouched by the turbulence in the country suddenly becomes the hub of revolt and revolution. Do these children have the courage to confront the police? Beautiful stories. I mean, again, sort of questioning these themes, that we did have violent protests, we did have non-violent protests, and all of them came together to win us our independence. It's a great way to set this period of history in context for our children, but it's also a great way to ask them what they think. I think we could just, as adults, if we engage with children, we could spend hours because talking to them, because they come up with remarkable ideas, and remarkable responses really to these, to the many questions that we pose. The Narayanpur Incident, published by Penguin and priced at 199 rupees. Two more books around the 1942 this is not specifically 1942. This is a book for young adults. We just have one copy of it. We've been trying high and low to get more copies of this book, but I'm afraid we've never managed to get more copies from the publisher, which is Penguin. This one's called Freedom's Child. In the sense, oh, okay. This one's called Freedom's Child, Growing Up During the Satyagraha, written by Chandralekha Mehta. She is actually, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's niece. And this book gives us a peek into the momentous years of the freedom struggle. This was the age that she's focusing on, was the age of the Satyagraha, when the country was awakening to new realities and inching her way to freedom. All, and primarily, she of course also says, all brought about largely by the vision of one man, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Of course, the author, Chandralekha Mehta, she lived in Allahabad, and, there were extraordinary movements for freedom in that city. And this is a vivid portrayal of a childhood spent at Anand Bhavan, which was the residence of the Nehrus and which was the seat of so much political activity at that time. I we have just this copy, and I'm thinking that it's probably okay. Mutama says sold out, somebody's already bought it, but if you can pick it up from somewhere, or if you're able to source it, please do tell us. We would recommend this for 13 plus year olds and all the adults watching this show, I mean watching this bazaar. It is really gives you a great sense of the time, and this is not fiction. She is talking about her own life. So the whole spirit of freedom, the whole sort of growing up in the midst of turbulence, all of that has been recorded. The very, very dynamic years of our freedom struggle have been recorded in this book, Freedom's Child by Chandralekha Mehta, priced at 199 rupees. And the last one in the 1942 segment for us is this, which we've recommended many times at the bazaar, called Climbing the Stairs. Again, a young adult novel, written by award-winning author Padma Venkatraman. This is the independence struggle. India's fight for against the British forms a sort of distant backdrop in this young adult novel. It is about a girl who dreams of going to college. It's set in the late 1930s, and in the time of British occupied India. She wants to go to college and dreams of it, but there's a tragedy befalls her family, and the family is forced to move out of their house and live with their relatives in a traditional household. Now, what is in this traditional household where roles are relegated for men and women, why is this young girl not allowed to climb the stairs? She's not allowed to climb up the stairs because there is the library that is above. It is, the stairs lead to the library, which is on the first floor of the house. And in that household, only men have access to this library. Does Vidya, the protagonist, the 15-year-old protagonist of this book, confirm? Absolutely not. And what is lovely about the story is really the fact that this is the story of a girl coming into her own against the backdrop of a nation that's coming into its own. I think, the author has brought in several perspectives of India's, several instances of India's freedom struggle into the story, because in a sense they are reflective of the protagonist's own struggle for freedom. Great read, wonderful book by author Padma Venkatraman, again published by Penguin India and priced at 350 rupees. We would recommend it for young adults 13 plus, and of course all adults. I think anybody who is interested in historical fiction will enjoy this considerably. Now, a quick round of hellos to many of you who've been with us, here this morning. Thank you so much. I do know it's Independence Day, and there are very, very many things that are going on in the gated communities that you live in, or in and around, the houses that you're living in. But we're eternally thankful and grateful that you're all here to celebrate this special Independence Day bazaar with us. Avyukt, Divya's son, says hello to you and wishes us all a happy Independence Day. Thank you so much, Avyukt. We know what a big history buff you are at the age of 9 years. And I think there are many books that are here that we are recommending that you're probably going to read very, very soon. The thing is, Avyukt, we've been telling your mother that we would love for you to be at our office post-COVID when things become, easier for you to come in. We would be absolutely delighted for you to come into our office, Avyukt, and help us, for you to talk to us about your favorite books from our collection and perhaps discover many new ones. Thank you so much for that lovely Independence Day wish, Avyukt. And thank you, Divya Menon, for being this fabulous reading family. Hi, Radhika from Cozy Nook. Lovely to see you here this morning. We love the work that Cozy Nook does. And, a big, shout out to librarians who take children's books here, there, everywhere. Hi, Joanne Saldana. Absolutely lovely to see you here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us week after week after week and, telling us about our recommendations and discussing, some of these recommendations with us. We just love this kind of interaction with, readers and book lovers like you. Hello, Ashok Kumar, and hello, Vijay Lakshmi Nagaraj. I'm sure you're here after the flag hoisting has been done at Sena Vihar, and we are absolutely delighted that you have joined us this morning at our Independence. We know you to be one of our most patriotic writers, and we are so delighted that you have taken time to be here with us this morning. Hi, Sujani Koya. Hi, Dhara Savla. Anita Venugopal, marvelous to see you here. Nirmala Anant, I know we have to make recommendations for you. This is what we were busy with, and we will do it, on Monday. I'm just absolutely delighted that our whole team is here this morning. It's a holiday, but it is not at Funky Rainbow because we have these fabulous Independence Day books to showcase to all of you. So I'm very, very glad that my colleagues Bharti and Sujita, both very nicely dressed in white, are here this morning, and we shall get them to say hello to us, a little later in the show. Shivangi Sharma, it's absolutely a pleasure. Deepta Vivekanand, utterly and thoroughly delighted to see you here this morning.
She says that all these books are there with her thanks to Funky Rainbow. I said,
Thank you. I believe you have written saying that every single one of these recommendations are with you at Chandigarh, at the school, St. Kabir that you work with. Thank you so much for, taking our suggestions and putting those books into the school library and into the hands of of children. Hi, Raghu. Absolutely lovely. I should complain publicly saying we want copies of Freedom's Child. So if you're watching, Raghu from Penguin, please do send us more copies of this book. I hope you can source it from somewhere in your in Penguin's Go Down for us. But thank you so much for joining us and for all the support that you give in reaching books to us, based on our theme based bazaar. Hi, Himjyoti Dheer. Hi, Preeta Matthew, Archana Atri, utterly and absolutely delighted to see you here this morning. Mutama says, we were very, very strongly considering doing a night bazaar. We wanted to do this last night between 10 and 12 and end at the stroke of the midnight hour. But we felt it might have been more convenient for more of you to watch us in the morning. But tell us if you're okay with a night bazaar. We will think of some nightly, ghostly, ghastly themes and, do one night bazaar sometime soon. Moon Mitra Das, it's absolutely a pleasure to see you here this morning. I just love the message that you sent us yesterday. We got a little late in putting up our poster and communication for the bazaar. And Moon, you wrote into us saying, I'm so anxious. It is not out yet. Are you guys doing the bazaar? You know what? Poster or no poster, we will do a bazaar every Saturday morning, 11 to 1, unless we have a request for a night bazaar suddenly. Hi, Sudeshna. Lovely to see you, editor, and one of the founders of Cozy Nook Library. Such a pleasure to see you here this morning, and such a pleasure that you help create some of these wonderful books that we have to showcase today. Ujwala Iyer and Muthukumar Vaidyanathan from Dubai. Lovely, friends of Muttama and Matthew. Lovely to see you here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us at our Independence Bazaar. We do ship, we've had so many people writing to us from various, countries, and we are happy to, reach these books to you if you should want them. Hi, Richa Handa. It's absolutely a pleasure to see you here this morning. I'm going to, move to a couple of fun books. I mean, we've been, dealing with several books with sort of serious themes. I mean, not that they're so serious and can't be read, but I'm going to showcase two, series of books. One is this lovely history mystery series, a set of 5 books from Duckbill. I mean, these are books that, tell you about the history. They're not specifically about the independence struggle, but these 5 ones focusing on, 5 great personalities from Indian history: Akbar, Ashoka, Rajaraja, Razia, and Shah Jahan. These are excellent chapter books and funny mysteries. These mysteries are set specifically in these historical periods. And, it's while you're chuckling away, as the mystery gets resolved, you're also learning a lot of stuff about these personalities and the specific historical period in which the books are set. Author Natasha Sharma has done a great job of interweaving the two. For instance, the story about Razia, which is one of my favorites, is about why, Razia is Razia Sultan and not Razia Sultana. Should she not have been Razia Sultana? Well, her father says her father trained her to be the Sultan of Delhi. And what happens in the story is there's somebody sending her all kinds of pesky, girly presents, while Razia does not want to be girly at all. She wants to be the strong, powerful Sultan of Delhi. So, of course, there are, as I said, a lot of historical facts interwoven into the story, but it's a fun mystery that would work for 8-plus-year-olds, all illustrated by Priya Kurian. So there are these charming illustrations inside the pages. As you can see, a great chapter book and a great way to introduce children to different historical periods of India. Different historical periods in our history. There are 5 books, each one priced at 199 rupees and available at special prices at the Buzzaar. There is another set like this, which we also, always recommend, called the Girls of India series, set in 3 historical periods. This is a Chola adventure written by Anu Kumar. This is a Mauryan adventure written by that queen of history, Subhadra Sen-Gupta, and a Harappan adventure written by somebody who's such a big supporter of Funky Rainbow, Sunila Gupte. Now, what are these books about? It's you travel back in time to 3 different eras of Indian history and girls who lived in them. Each of the stories, and we would recommend this for 10-plus-year-olds because it's a little bit more text heavy. And I think children need to have some sense of, history before they get started on these books. For instance, the Chola adventure is, the story of 12-year-old Raji, who is growing up in the time of Rajaraja Chola in South India. She's a brave, bright, and bold girl. She's also a dancer, a warrior, and a sculptor. Now, one dark night when there's a big storm in the sea, Raji rescues a Chinese sailor at sea. This sets off a chain of events with absolutely unforeseen consequences. You see, we all know that the Cholas were great sailors and went to different lands. So even in this set of books, there are the history of the period is beautifully interwoven into the mystery, and children are turning the pages to find out what happens in the end. Same with Mauryan thing. It is set in 9th century Pataliputra, and Madura, who lives in this legendary kingdom of Pataliputra during the reign of King Ashoka, she works as a maid to and a companion to Princess Sangamitra. But Madura just doesn't like this life. It is too boring, and what she wants to do is to travel like her brother, who is a trader. Does that opportunity come her way? Indeed, it does. And what is the mystery that is set in the magnificent kingdom of Patliputra, and which was the hub of the Mauryan Empire? Sunila Kulkarni, we are delighted. Delighted that you have joined us here this morning. We were just going to talk about your lovely book, A Harappan Adventure, written by Sunila Kulkarni Gupte, which is now goes all the way back to 2570 BCE. It's such a great way, even these historical books, to talk to children about time. I mean, 2570 BCE, how long ago is that long ago? It's a great way to get a sense of how far back our history really goes. And this is, again, the protagonist of the book is 12-year-old Avni, who's a happy-go-lucky, adventurous girl who loves to play with her friends. The friends are Tavishi, Dilshad, and Ambar. There is a wedding in the village, but while things are getting ready and set for the wedding, there is something sinister afoot as well. Avni overhears a conversation that sets her thinking and that plunges her headlong into this mystery, which is set way back in the Indus Valley civilization, and in Harappa. A beautiful set of books that really take children back in time to history, and well and truly wonderful history mysteries that should be a part of every school and library's bookshelves. Each one priced at 199 rupees, and available at special prices at the Independence Buzzaar. The Girls of India series, it is, telling you about history, and there are three girls who are protagonists at the core of these mysteries. Lovely reads, for to give children a sense of our history. I am going to move on to focusing on a couple of more history books that we have, in our collection. These are all, histories of India, so to speak. And I'm going to start off with one that is perhaps our favorite, A Children's History of India by that wonderful writer of history for children, Subhadra Sen Gupta. Subhadra has won the Bal Sahitya Academy Award, a couple of years ago. I think it was 2015 or 16, perhaps, when she won the Bal Sahitya for writing history in a very presentable manner, in a very engaging manner for young readers. This one is a great introduction to the history of India. There are some. Subhadra spans an entire gamut from when the first cities of India were discovered. What was it like to live in the Mughal times? How did the British who had come to trade in India end up ruling our country? And how has India changed after we have won our independence? Subhadra, being a detail, a person who understands history so well, who knows history so well, peppers her narrative. It doesn't even feel like you're reading a book of nonfiction. This one peppers her narrative with marvelous details that you probably won't find in too many other collections. I'm just revealing a thing that I usually don't like to reveal. But it was just so lovely and unexpected that she actually sent out a dedication to me in this book. And I'm like, what? Why? What have I done even to sort of, deserve this marvelous honor, to be put into a book that is written by the wonderful Subhadra Sen Gupta. So she says, also to Vidya Mani and another fine writer of historical fiction, Devika Rangachari, who understand the craft of writing history. Thank you so much, Subhadra. This is a really special book in more ways than one. Muttama tells me that Subhadra is going to be talking about the Constitution this evening, at Bookwook. And Subhadra's new book on the Constitution, which we didn't put into this bazaar because we were focusing entirely on independence and the history of India. a wonderful book that should be part of everybody's reading, essential reading, published by Red Turtle, whose editor Sudeshna is right here, priced at 295 rupees, A Children's History of India. Of course, the minute I say Subhadra, there are just piles of books that we can pull out on the theme of Indian history that she has authored. Two of these set smack in the independence struggle. This one, which again, a book that we love so much, called Saffron, White and Green, The Amazing Story of India's Independence, by author Subhadra Sengupta, published by Penguin. It tells the glorious tale of how the powerless and unarmed people of India came together to combat the might of the British Empire, which was at that point in time the mightiest empire in the world. This one, takes you again, and Subhadra's skill is really in bringing out the story in history. So it's not a recollection of dates and people. They're all in there, of course, but you're turning the pages because she takes you right through the engaging, colorful, conflicted story of our independence, our struggle for independence, so beautifully in this wonderful book, so aptly called Saffron, White and Green, The Amazing Story of India's Independence, priced at 250 rupees and published by Penguin India. There is another one which is sort of complementary to this book, which is called A Flag, a Song, and a Pinch of Salt, Freedom Fighters of India. Again, published by Penguin and written by Subhadra Sengupta. Like I said, that one pinch of salt that Gandhi picked up at Dundee, it absolutely shook the foundations of the mightiest empire of the world. Humble salt, that sort of broke the back of the mightiest empire in the world at that point in time, the British. So there is in this, the story of Gandhi. Of course, the song is about a poet who led a protest march. There is a revolutionary who became a saint, and a man who walked for 4 weeks to make salt. We know who she's talking about. And there is a whole host of freedom fighters, from Mahatma Gandhi to Birsa Munda, to Sarojini Naidu, to Bhagat Singh, to Aurobindo Ghosh and Subhash Chandra Bose, who are all, to whom she pays glowing tribute in this wonderful book. And what I love is that there are freedom fighters from across the country that Subhadra has picked. There is, like I said, V.O. Chidambaram Pillai from down south, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, Sarojini Naidu. It's a great way. I think it's a great complimentary read to Saffron, White and Green. A Flag, a Song, and a Pinch of Salt, priced at 250 rupees and published by Penguin India.
Gave the idea for WhatsApp forwards.
Who's that?
Subhadra said that Gandhiji was the one who actually started a very good marketing.
Muttama, just reminded us of a great, thing, of a wonderful thing that Subhadra said to us when she had come to do some sessions with children at schools in Bangalore. She said Gandhi was the Bapu of WhatsApp, do or die. He knew these catchy slogans and they spread like wildfire without a mobile phone in sight. That's how she makes history so contemporary to children, speaking to them in a language that they understand and they appreciate. So one more Subhadra Sengupta book, Let's Go Time Traveling. And I think Sudeshna, who's here at the Buzzaar, has probably, worked on every single one of these, 3 or 4 books that we've recommended. Wonderful wonderful Sudeshna, that you did get Subhadra to write so many wonderful books on such an important period of our history. This one, in a lighter vein, called Let's Go Time Traveling, Life in India Through the Ages, written by Subhadra Sengupta and illustrated by Taposh Guha, is a lovely fun filled journey down history, fun, freaky information that no textbook will ever give you, is what is there in this fascinating, lovely, sort of entertaining book, actually, about the history of India down the ages. For instance, and Subhadra really has that ability to ask this, like the most unusual questions, the kind of questions that probably children will ask. For instance, was King Ashoka actually fond of chewing pan? Mulgatawny was a soup, but what was pish pash? Did they design jewelry in Harappa? Who played Pachisi, Chaupar, and Iam Turki? Look at these. Look at the kind of, look at the diversity of information that is available in the book, and tracing history with all these wonderful why questions and stories, and, with, peppered by these lovely laugh out loud cartoons by Taposh Guha. Let's go time traveling, which is the winner of the Comic Con Award 2012 for Best Illustrated Children's Book and Best Children's Writer, is a marvelous read, for young readers, and actually a great way, like a breezy, light-hearted way to introduce them to our history.
The nerds love it.
Sorry?
The nerds love it.
Archana, you say that the nerds absolutely love the book. I can imagine that it had all us adults chuckling. So the children for whom the jokes are literally meant, and, whose curiosity is piqued by these excellent questions, must really have enjoyed this book. And of course, we have a clutch of more history books. We have this one by Roshan Dalal, which is probably one of the earliest ones on the history of India. The Puffin History of India, Volume 1, and the Puffin History of India, Volume 2, both by Roshan Dalal. I really do believe this was one of the earliest books that sort of put the history of India, in a set of, it was probably one book and has now been made into two books. This is, of course, a revised and updated edition tracing the history of India right from the time of the Indus Valley civilization. This new edition, new updated edition. And the thing is, it traces the history of India, taking into account the social, political, cultural, and economic development across the ages. Starts at the Indus Valley civilization, in book one, and comes absolutely to as recently as contemporary times. We have, I think, come pretty much up to the 2000s in this, in these volumes of, Indian history by Roshan Dalal. Each one priced at 399 rupees. It's absolutely, they are ideal books to, and, to introduce children to the breadth of Indian history, and, also to the fact that the fact that they can be used as excellent reference guides. We would suggest this for older readers, 11 plus, 12 plus, perhaps, when they have a good sense of India's history and have studied it for a couple of years. In similar vein is another set of books that we also absolutely love at Funky Rainbow, The History of India for Children by Archana Garodia Gupta and Shruti Garodia. It is in 2 volumes, this one. I mean, India's history is so huge that I think, it's remarkable that these writers have managed to fit it in 2 books, giving you an entire overview, of the entire history of India, starting from prehistoric times up to contemporary times. This one is from prehistory to the Sultanates, that is the time, of the Delhi Sultanates, and this one is from the Mughals to present day. The wonderful thing about these books is that Archana Garodia Gupta was the winner of Mastermind in India, BBC's Mastermind, and also went on to win, the Champion of Champions in Mastermind Asia. So she is obviously a huge trivia and quizzing buff. So the book is filled with fun facts. You can see little encircled little facts full of interesting connections that she has made, and little facts that sometimes make you think, that sometimes make you laugh aloud. And of course there are photographs, there are maps, and there is a lot of information in these action packed books on the history of India. They're sisters, and they've done a great job in sort of getting young readers to travel back in time to see the way in which people lived, why the things that happened that the way they did, and why we are what we are today. Great books in a school library, great books in a home library as well. We would recommend this again for 12 plus year olds. Be assured that you're going to stumble upon bits and bytes of trivia that you probably didn't even know of before in these two books, The History of India for Children by Archana Garodia Gupta and Shruti Garodia, each priced at $3.99 and published by Hachette India. I'm going to, do the last one about, the history of India. And I'm afraid, again, we just have one copy of this book, by Nayantara Sehgal, again, related to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the story of India's freedom movement. This one, written by Nayantara Sehgal, it really traces the story of the freedom movement in a unique manner, because her focus is largely about how ordinary people came together to defeat the might of the British Empire. She actually goes into concepts like satyagraha, ahimsa. She talks about the philosophies of various leaders and revolutionaries, and finally leading up to the point where we make our tryst with destiny. It's again meant for older readers. It's a lucid telling of one of the most tumultuous periods in our history, and it actually seeks to inspire young readers to be imbibed with the spirit that made freedom possible for our country.
Shruti Radhanath says that all these books will be very good for children for their project work.
Shruti, you have said that all of these books that we are recommending, would be very useful for, the project work at school, for your children at school. I do know that you work with, very young children, but the fact is India's history can be told as a story, and all of these books that we have been recommending will help you piece that story fabulously well for any age group, any audience that you choose to do that with. And I think it's really important for our children today to have a sense of our history, because those who don't know our history are condemned to repeat it. And we really don't want to see history repeating itself. We want to understand, we want to learn, and we want to create a better world for us in the years to come. So definitely, yes, Shruti, most of these books are things that you can use, at school. It's up to the teacher, the parent, or the adult, the librarian, to interpret them in interesting ways for young readers. Going to say a big round of hellos before I move into the next segment. Hello, Revati Karmakar. Just lovely to see you. We do know you love telling stories, and I can assure you that several of these books encompass some of the most powerful stories that can be told to children, and we must not relegate ourselves to remembering these stories only on the special days, not just on Independence Day, not just on Republic Day, not just on Gandhi Jayanti. This is who we are. These stories make us who we are today. Hi, Vijay Kant. Lovely to see you. Veena Sharma. Absolutely a pleasure. Diksha Rastogi. So delighted you were able to join us this morning. Proma Basu Roy. Always a pleasure to see, someone from the Parag Trust here. here, and someone who is absolutely fond of books herself. Really delighted that you made time out this morning. Mrinalini Kabir, how lovely to see you here this morning, old friend, and someone who has picked up many, many books at Funky Rainbow for your children. We are utterly and absolutely delighted that you've taken time to be with us this morning. There are many books here that your girls will enjoy, books for younger readers, books for older readers. So, send us a message and we'd be delighted to send them your way. Shruti Sri Raghunath, lovely, lovely to see you as always. We already, I know that you are such a big user of so many of the books that we recommend. And I always say this, we can't thank people enough for reaching these books into the right hands, to reaching them to the readers. We can make these recommendations, we can make them available, but connecting them with kids, a lot of you do that for us. Anita Matthew, absolutely a pleasure to see you this morning. Mayura Hurley, sorry, Maura Hurley, lovely to see you here this morning. We're delighted. It's probably your first time at our bazaar, and we are delighted that you have taken the time to be at what is a very, very special day for us, the 15th of August, the day of India's freedom, 74th Independence Day for India. Ashok Rajagopalan, we're so delighted to see you. Big shout out to you for Gajapati Kulapati Kalicha Kolicha. We're eagerly waiting for the book to come to us, and we hope to have it next week. We are so happy to tell you that there are so many people who've pre-ordered the book from Funky Rainbow. I'm almost tempted to say, please, please set one Gajapati in the independence movement, but that is your prerogative and your choice. But I have to say that, Ashok, you have pretty much created a character who generations of young readers are going to grow up reading. I'm dead sure that in the next 20 years, Gajapati Kulapati will be the iconic children's book for young readers to read in India. So thank you so much for that wonderful character, and thank you so much for joining us at the bazaar. Santosh Sebastian, absolutely a pleasure to see you here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Ashok says, oh, thank you, Vidya. It's the truth. It is absolutely the truth. I mean, when children are not reading their English textbooks and instead reading a Gajapati story, I can't tell you how thrilled the team at Funky Rainbow is, simply because these are the kind of books that we do want to give our children. We want our children to grow up amongst all other books. I mean, there are so many beautiful picture books that exist in India as well as abroad, but this one is really that iconic one. I know it from the bottom of my heart, Ashok. Santosh Sebastian, absolutely a pleasure to see you. And Atiya Haji, sign language expert, marvelous to see you here. I'm so delighted Muttama has invited you to our bazaar. We are so glad that people from such diverse walks of life come to us every Saturday morning for our recommendations on Indian children's, for our recommendations of Indian children's and young adult books. Thank you so much for joining us. And if there are possibilities that you can take these books, to children, we would absolutely be delighted. I think somebody has asked us, how can you get these books? Please do check our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. You can log in, and all the books that we are recommending, you need to go to the segment called bargains. Please click it, and all the books that we are recommending in the bazaar plus more are up on the in the bargains section. You can click, put the books into your cart, order, pay for it online, and we'll have them shipped to you next week. If you have any trouble with it, you could message us on WhatsApp at 99004 95665. Thank you so much, whoever, one of you who had asked us about it, sorry. Thank you, Girija. This is the way in which you can pick books up from Funky Rainbow. I'm going to move to my next segment, which is a turbulent period in our history, which is the partition of India. I mean, while India's history came with with so much joy, it was also accompanied by so much grief, so much violence at the fact that what was one nation got divided into two. Evidently, such a traumatic and tumultuous period would form the backdrop of many, very many books. And we are glad that there are many that are also available for young readers with partition as the backdrop. I think there's possibly not a single bazaar in which we haven't recommended this one book, which is like an eternal favorite at Funky Rainbow, Mukand and Riaz by Nina Sabnani. It's a beautiful story of friendship, shared memories, shared histories, and shared crafts. So, well, it is the story. The story is, of course, like all of you know, set against the backdrop of partition of India and Pakistan in 1947. But can friendship really be divided by barbed wire fencing? Children, what do they like to do? They like to meet their friends, they like to eat ice cream, they like to play. And can drawing a line between two friends and two countries change that in any way? Nina Sabnani was inspired by the story of her own father and has told this beautiful story of friendship between Mukand and Riaz, where she's also illustrated the book in this fantastic applique style, an applique style that is both to India and Pakistan. This kind of applique style, on actual cloth is seen both in Sindh in Pakistan and in Gujarat in India. And that's how she has told this marvelous story of friendship set against the backdrop of partition, which also showcases our shared memories, our shared histories, our shared crafts, and the fact that the drawing of a line cannot ever draw a line between friendship. Mukund and Riaz, published by Tulika. I think possibly almost all of you watching the bazaar have a copy of it, but those who don't, please make sure that you definitely pick up a copy of this book, priced at 150 rupees and published by Tulika, written by Nina Sabnani. The other, sorry? Was able to introduce partition to my 5-year-old through this book. Very simple, yet conveys a strong message. Great recommendation from Funky Rainbow. Thank you. That is precisely what Funky Rainbow wants parents to do, Preeti Ramchandran. It is such a pleasure that you do this and introduce to our children, no matter how young they are, a sense of our history. Because if we know who we are and where we come from, that makes us even more ready to be global citizens, to embrace the world. We're even more ready to embrace the world once we know and are familiar with our roots. We can't stress this more in at Funky Rainbow, because this is precisely why our focus is almost entirely on Indian children's books. Joanne, you say, just did this one at my online library classes. When I stopped sharing the screen, I found the older children crying. Beautifully written. What a great way to introduce children and give to our history and give them a sense of their roots. It's marvelous. Parents, teachers, librarians, who are introducing our books to children in these marvelous ways.
Google has an ad about it. Remember that?
Which one?
Google. They have an ad.
Muttaba was reminding me that Google did an ad around the partition of India about Google bringing them together, of course, and people being able to use Google to find friends that got separated in different countries. I think books should be our Google, basically, right? That's what we believe at Funky Rainbow. A couple of other partition books. Do you want me to, a couple of other partition books that I would like to focus on? This. Okay, I'll do one that's for sort of middle readers. It is not a partition story per se, but a part of the book, this beautiful graphic novel, which is a story of friendship called The Piano, written by Nandita, written and illustrated by Nandita Basu, actually tells the story of friendship between a girl and her piano. The thing is, the piano travels, the piano is made several decades before the protagonist of the story is born. And it travels from Leipzig in Germany through war-torn France and England to reach Calcutta during the period of the independence struggle. It is, it is not set in the time of partition, of course, but it comes to India in the 1930s. Again, obviously, a very, very rich period for us in many ways, in the manner in which, in which Indians came together to make freedom possible. This beautiful graphic novel, which is the story of friendship. I mean, of course, this piano comes to Calcutta, and the girl and the piano, find each other only until circumstances separate them. It's a story. It's a beautiful story of love, loss, and the unexpected kind of bonds that you make sometimes not just with people, but even with some objects. Beautiful story, and with a short glimpse of, a brief, glimpse of the independence struggle in the 30s, in India. The next one, that I wanted to focus on is this wonderful book for, say, 11, 12 plus readers by author Nainika Mehtani called Across the Line. It's a fabulous book set in the time of the partition of India, set, of course, both in the time of partition and modern times, because the story does open in 1947 when Cyril Radcliffe, that is the person whose hands are clammy, and that's because of the heat, but also because of the enormity of the task that lies ahead of him, that is drawing a line, to draw this dark line that divided two countries, India and Pakistan. No sooner is that line drawn, there is a barbaric frenzy of rioting across the, in on both sides, and the streets are filled with riots and fights and violence of unimaginable proportions. How does that connect to cut to 2008, when, where there's cricket crazy Inaya, who is always sneaking off to play cricket behind her father's back because he's disapproving of the fact that she runs off ever so often to play cricket. And there's another boy called Jay at the same time, all set this part of the story in 2008, where he accidentally stumbles upon a hidden diary in his kitchen, and the last date of entry on that diary is 17th August 1947. The unlikely worlds of Jay and Inaya collide in this fantastic novel as the story unfolds, but you are not, the past too comes into it. How do these two, ages back in 1947, 2008, Nainika has strung the story together so beautifully, using the partition of India as a backdrop to this story. It is the story that begins with the drawing of a line. Marvelous read. We recommend it for 11, 12 plus year olds, perhaps, depending on the reading levels that your children have. Priced at 250 rupees and published by Penguin India. Muttama says, I was a bit hesitant and worried about giving Across the Line to my daughter, but my 12-year-old says that Nayanika just does not patronize her readers, but respects them much more than we give them credit for. She trusts us, and she trusts us to understand, is what Muttama's daughter said once she read the book, and that is the truth of how compelling a story Nainika's Across the Line is. A great way to introduce children above the age of, say, 11, 12 to an important period in our history, but at not a single point is the actual story compromised because history comes into it. This one, which we've been asking for, Chotu, which is the next book that we are recommending for 13 plus year olds, is something that we've been wanting to get for very long at Funky Rainbow, but just came into our shelves yesterday. A fantastic graphic novel. I just read it overnight, and it is a beautiful story of partition, love, and loss. This is a young adult read. In fact, it's a read for all of you who are watching the Buzzaar or at the Buzzaar today. Chotu is a cook in the lanes, or is assistant to a cook in the lanes of bustling Chandni Chowk in Delhi. He's a 15-year-old boy, and the whole Chandni Chowk atmosphere is so beautifully evoked in this graphic novel, actually. And he falls in love with a girl called Heer. So there is romance, there is history. Of course, it is a set against the backdrop of one of the most violent incidents in our history, which is the partition. In the manner of Mouse, which is Art Spiegelman's Pulitzer Prize winning comic about the Nazis and the Jews, in Chotu too, the characters are anthropomorphic. They are animal-like. And I believe this helps, the author, Varud Gupta, and the illustrator designer Ayushi Rastogi move their story forward very, very nicely, very, very seamlessly. Asking, in fact, this is written, I'm fairly confident that the writer and illustrator are young people themselves. Perhaps, I don't know more about them, but the sense that I get from reading the book is that they must possibly not be older than 30. So many of the questions that the book raises, that the graphic novel raises, they are very relevant to our contemporary young people. When you question certain things that happened in our history, these are perhaps the kind of questions that are playing in the minds of our young readers even today. So, taking the searing episode in India's history, using, great irony and great humor, the book brings a poignant understanding of living in a time of fear, bigotry, political motivations of all kinds, and violence. I mean, how true does that ring into our ears even today? So obviously a graphic novel that young and old alike can read. We would definitely recommend it for 14, 15 plus year olds, perhaps, but it's and the graphic format, which lends itself very well to moving the story forward. This one is a great story set against the backdrop of partition. As I said, written by Varud Gupta and Ayushi Rastogi, A Tale of Partition and Love, Chotu, priced at 299 rupees. Available, all of these available at special discounted prices at our bargain bazaar. Do check some of these out. I know we are recommending a lot of books for mixed age groups today, but we have had a lot of requests from people stopping by at the bazaar asking for more and more books for middle grade readers. I think we largely focus on books for younger readers. So today there's a mix of picture books, chapter books, middle grade readers, and young adult books. So those were a couple of stories that are set, against the backdrop of partition in India. And I'm going to, okay, before I move on, quickly going to run through a clutch of books on that one man who single-handedly won us our independence, especially with his absolutely unique ideas of non-violence. I'm talking of none other than Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, really one of the most revered figures of our freedom struggle, a man who was visionary in so many ways and instrumental in ensuring that India became a free country. There are several children's books on the Mahatma, and I'm just going to quickly run through a clutch of them, both fiction and non-fiction, that are meant for for readers of all ages. I'll start with two favorites at Funky Rainbow, these excellent and exquisite Grandfather Gandhi books. The first one called Grandfather Gandhi, and the second one called Be the Change. Now, these books are actually written by Gandhi's grandson, Arun Gandhi, and in association with Bethany Hegedus, and fabulously illustrated by Ivan Turk. I can just show you some of the fantastic collage, style illustrations, vibrant, stunning portraits of an extraordinary man who taught us, how to live our lives, and how to win our freedom against the British. I mean, I know political leaders come with their own personal pitfalls, but, the message that we want to be sent to our children is that each one of them put their differences aside and rose to the occasion to win India her freedom. This one is a great story of Arun Gandhi, who comes from the US, where he lives, to Sabarmati, where his grandfather lives. Now, the minute he comes to Sabarmati, he is just absolutely confounded by the reputation of his grandfather. Everybody thinks he's a great man. Everybody thinks, can't stop singing Gandhi's praises. And that is completely overwhelming to the young boy, when he comes visiting Sabarmati. The thing is, one time he slowly starts to make friends in the ashram. And one time he's playing football with some of the boys at the ashram, and he gets so mad at something that happens at the game that he absolutely hits another boy. And you know what the response is? The response to it is that, my God, you are Gandhi's grandson. How can you have a temper? How can you resort to violent means in the course of a game? And young Arun is utterly annoyed. Now, what happens forms the crux of the rest of the story. What does the great man, the great leader do? Does he come to his grandson as a great leader, or does he come to him as a grandfather? Such a beautiful story about channelizing anger into positivity. Be the Change, Archana, you say, is a must read, both actually passive and active violence detailed so beautifully. I asked the nerds to reflect on their actions and make their own own trees of violence. What a beautiful idea, Archana. Really, what a beautiful idea to make these books relevant to contemporary readers. And this one, I think, particularly, where the grandfather comes to the fore, to tell his grandson how to channelize anger positively. In a very similar vein, again, about the importance of nonviolence and how hard the young boy finds it not to waste. As you can see in the cover, Gandhi is holding a really teeny tiny pencil, one that we would absolutely chuck into the bin because it has become so small. And that's what Arun, struggles with in the course of this book, to not to waste things. It is an important life lesson for our children, and how to convert all these life lessons into positive influences. These books, just so exquisitely illustrated, are a must read for the youngest of readers. You can really read these aloud to a child who's 5 and 6, and possibly, when they're older, 7 or 8, they can read the story and understand the crux of it themselves. Two gorgeously put together books on the man, but even more than that, the man, the Mahatma, but the grandfather. 399 rupees for each one of them, available at a special price at Funky Rainbow. Going to showcase two more picture books, about Gandhi, and the lady who played an equally significant role, if not bigger, in ensuring, that India won its freedom, both Mahatma Gandhi and his wife Kasturba. This one, the book My Gandhi Story, done by Rajesh Chaitya Vangad, Nina Sabnani, and the late Ankit Chadha, who was perhaps, one of the most powerful storytellers of our times. I mean, it is such a pity that we lost him so young, but it's great that some of his work remains, by way of books. This one is a superb collaboration between the three of them, about how every single one of us has a story of Gandhi. And in this, the Varli artist, a storyteller, and an animation filmmaker come together to collaborate in a very, very unique manner to tell a very, very visual story of the life and times of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Exquisite illustrations in this Varli style, with text interwoven so beautifully, photographs as well, that absolutely introduce the youngest of readers to a great man, a great man of those times, of our times as well, Mahatma Gandhi. We would recommend this for 5+ year olds, and it's published by Tulika, priced at 250 rupees. We recommend this as a complementary pair, to go with this, because this book called Kasturba, written and illustrated by Tanaya Vyas, is such a lovely story of a young girl who has to play the role, of Kasturba in a school play. Of course, the young girl in the story, little Nina, has played the role of Sita. She has played the role of Razia, and everyone calls her a fine, fine actress. But when she's called on to play the role of Kasturba, she's a bit perplexed, because she is like, what can I do? What can I bring to this role of Kasturba? After all, she was only Gandhi's wife. Confused and a little bit perplexed, she starts to prepare for the play, only to realize that who we have considered an ordinary wife was quite an extraordinary person, and a brilliant person in her own right, who played such a key role in winning India our freedom. A great set of picture books. This one works again for 5+ year olds, and it's a marvelous picture book on Kasturba Gandhi. In the same vein, I want to introduce you to two quick books, of again written by author Subhadra Sen Gupta, of about a man called Bapu, and we call her Ba. These are two exquisite handmade paper editions of the book. They come together as one package, and these were put together, for the Gandhi centenary recently, where Subhadra tells in such an affectionate manner the life of Bapu, and why he inspired one generation of people, and why he will continue to inspire generations to come, with a lots of little bits and bytes of trivia in the book, plus segments that highlight the significant revolutionary ideas that Bapu came up with. This is a beautiful read, about a man called Bapu. This one is illustrated by Neeta Gangopadhyay, both of them. This one again about Kasturba, and very much in that vein. While that would work for 5-year-olds, we would recommend this for slightly older children, say 7, 8-year-olds. All about how Kasturba Gandhi was no ordinary woman, who she had a strong identity, she had a great deal of courage, she had tremendous willpower, and she sacrificed a lot, for her country. In fact, somewhere in the book, I recall reading a line where Gandhiji's biographer, I think I had flagged it somewhere, where Gandhi's biographer wrote about Kasturba being herself and being at the same time a shadow of the Mahatma, made her an extraordinarily remarkable woman, simply because she walked shoulder to shoulder with one of the most prominent leaders of our independence movement. These special edition books, absolutely to be treasured by that wonderful writer of historical fiction and non-fiction, Subhadra Sengupta, published by Pratham, and available at a price of 400 rupees. Available, of course, at a special price at our Buzzaar. Just going to quickly run through some more biographies, because I do see we have a clutch of a few more books. So I'm quickly going to show you a couple of more. There's this one by author Aditi Day and illustrated by Pooja Potankulam, which demystifies the man we call the Mahatma, and interestingly done as a mix of comic and text. It's a very, very interesting format, because you're reading text at a point in time, and then in a couple of pages later, the story is carried forward in comic form. This one published by Scholastic in a series called Great Lives, priced at 250 rupees. This one is another, lovely one in our collection. It was reissued in 2007. It was reissued recently to celebrate the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Picture Gandhi by Sandhya Rao. Again, fabulously taking forward the story of Gandhi in photos, in pictures, in illustration, telling us, giving us an intimate glimpse, really. Actually, this one really succeeds in doing that, an intimate glimpse of a man of our times, a man of all times, actually. So this, again, published by Tulika, recommended for 8+-year-olds, as I said, written by Sandhya Rao, and collages and photographs that illustrate it, priced at 235 rupees. We have a simple one from NBT called The Story of Gandhi, priced at 280 rupees. And the last one on Gandhi, which is a book that we have absolutely enjoyed reading of late, a work of fiction called Being Gandhi by that wonderful writer for young adults, or a lot of young adult books of hers that have done, that have found, much currency with readers 13 plus. This one is called Being Gandhi, published by HarperCollins. It begins with a great premise. It is, in fact, it says, how many times are kids supposed to study Gandhi? Now, what happens in the book is that Chandrasekhar, who is the protagonist of the book, is one such teenager who is bored entirely by the annual Gandhi projects that they have to do, and about all the talk that goes out about the man with his round glasses, white dhoti, his stick, and the long walks that he went on, and the ideas, unique ideas of non-violent protest. So he's for him it is just this whole thing about being Gandhi, or getting into the spirit of all things Gandhian, just at these specific times of the year. And I'm sure this will resonate with many young readers today, because that's probably how they feel. He's just a figure from our history. However, something happens that changes Chandrasekhar's world. And, this thing that happens in school and in his life forces him to dig deep into himself and remarkably find his own inner Gandhi. What a beautiful way it explores the idea of not just Gandhi the man, not just the leader, but also the Gandhian way of life, and why it is relevant to us even today, at a time when there's a lot of violence and hate going around in our country. It's a great young adult read, very contemporary, explains these ideas beautifully to readers above 13 plus. Highly recommended. Paro Anand's Being Gandhi, published by HarperCollins and priced at 250 rupees. Before I, get on to just a little mix of books, are there any, hellos and highs to be said, or shall I just go ahead with these clutch of books? I'm going to pick a few that interest us on India. Of course, an extremely popular one that perhaps all of us know of, and many of us have read, Letters from a Father to His Daughter, Jawaharlal Nehru's wonderful letters from prison to his daughter, Indira Priyadarshini, when she was a young girl and all of 10, and Nehru was in prison. He wrote her a series of letters which tells her the story of our civilization, which tells her, how societies evolved, and, the unique story of India in a letter format. Very well done. This is a timeless, book, so exquisitely written by a father to his daughter. Never mind that he was one of our most prominent leaders. The book is peppered with some illustrations and some photographs, and it's a great read for readers 10 plus, to introduce you. And also, what wonderful writing, the power of those words that Nehru used, such an articulate man, writing to his daughter about the growth of the story of civilization, and Indian civilization in particular. It's, they were written way back in 1928, but they remain fresh and vibrant to date. Pretty much like a letter that some parent, would be writing to some children even today. Priced at 350 rupees. This is a handsome hardback edition. A couple of books about people who have changed our world. This is Derek O'Brien's book on 100 iconic Indians who have changed India. The good thing about his selection is that he has people from history, he has people from politics, from business, from science, art and culture, language and literature, films and sport. And of course, other personalities, several Nobel laureates, Mother Teresa, Amartya Sen. It's quite a wide cross section that he has selected, and introducing us to 100 iconic Indians who changed the history of our nation. Priced at 295 rupees and written by Derek O'Brien. This one, about 100 iconic Indians who changed our world. And exactly in this, that changed our country. And exactly in this vein, this handsome production sorry, okay. Could I recommend Freedom Run by Subhadra Sen Gupta on child labor and what freedom means for some? Excellent recommendation, Archana. We do not have copies of the book and hence couldn't put it up on our recommendation, but it's available free to read on Pratham Story Weaver about children who are engaged, I mean, who are caught in hard labor, and how, what does freedom mean to these forgotten children? What does freedom even mean when you don't have it? So relevant in these particular times when many of the freedoms that we took for granted have just disappeared from our lives because of the pandemic. It's called, it is up on Pratham Story Weaver. Please do, read it there. That's an excellent recommendation, Archana. This one, handsome volume of 25 game changers, India through people, 25 game changers, written by this wonderful archaeologist and anthropologist writer Devika Karyappa. It is great. What the basic premise of the 25 game changers that she has picked in this book is that each one of them has altered the course of our nation. She has really picked a wonderful selection of people, some very well known and some not so well known. For instance, there is of course Mahatma Gandhi, Bapu of the nation, but there's also Periyar Ramasamy, who set up the self-respect movement in Tamil Nadu to say that all people are equal. So there's C.V. Raman, there's P.C. Mahalanobis, there's Begum Akhtar, there's M.S. Subbulakshmi, there's Satyajit Ray. Devika Karyappa writes with such ease, and she writes with such conviction about these 25 wonderful people, the times that they lived in, and the changes that they brought about to make our country a better place, to make it the diverse and beautiful place that it is meant to be. Fantastic hardbound edition with photographs and illustrations and collages. This one, we would recommend for 10 plus year olds, and it is priced at 650 rupees, published by Tulika. Because we are from Bangalore and Karnataka, I always want to try and bring a Bangalore Karnataka touch to our bazaars, and this time it was made possible by this wonderful man who literally pioneered modern development in Karnataka, Sir M. Vishveshwaraya, the builder of dams, bridges, and a nation. Written by Mala Kumar and illustrated by Sheshadri Mokshagundam. This is a superb book about a young boy called Vishwa who had to walk a long way to get to school. And, he still persisted. Long or not, he was absolutely ready to walk and get himself to school. As a college student, he didn't have enough money to pay his fees. And so he offered tuitions to two children to make ends meet. And growing up to be an engineer, he built dams, bridges, and iconic institutions that laid the foundation for modern India. But what is the overarching theme of this excellent book by Mala Kumar, and which has photographs and facts and everything, is that he observed the world around him so closely. He worked so tirelessly, and he never shied away from a day's hard work. Only that made it possible for him to achieve all the things that he achieved. It's a great book published by Pratham, priced at 60 rupees, and we absolutely recommend that children above the age of 7 read this book to find out about perhaps someone that they don't know very well. Muttama reminds me that there is a great museum in his name here in Bangalore, which is iconic of our childhood. It is a science and technology museum, and even today, children can go there, press buttons to see how different things work, and it also has, a big robotic dinosaur at its basement. So you can imagine what excitement there is, for children to visit the museum in the name, that is named after Vishweshwaraya. If and when many of you visit Bangalore, please do make it a point to take your children there. I know we're almost out of time, and I'm just going to close with two quick recommendations. One from Subhadra Sen Gupta called The Unknown Indians, of People Who Quietly Changed Our World. This is, in bite-sized bits. It explores, various minstrels and storytellers, weavers, potters, ironsmiths, carvers, farmers, cooks, poets, and rebels, all little unknown people who came together and made India richer with their skills, with their intelligence, and with their specialized knowledge. It's a great book to introduce, children to the fact that there are not just engineers, and there are not just doctors, and there are not just writers. There are so many people. There are farmers, there are sculptors, there are so many kinds of people that go to make India the country that it is. And Subhadra has done a fabulous job of showcasing wondrous innovations that were made by ordinary people from different walks of life. This one's priced at 195 rupees, written by Subhadra Sengupta and illustrated by Taposh Guha. It would work absolutely for 8+ year olds. Its text is presented in a fairly simple form, and there are large illustrations accompanying the text. And finally, just the last recommendation, because Preeti Ramchandran, I hope you're listening. You say we're not giving you any activity books. I mean, amidst all of these, the activity books, I'm afraid, fall by the wayside. And I did tell you yesterday that Muttama has been suggesting that we do an activity book special. We will take up that request, and we have a whole range of activity books to showcase, again, in the Indian context. But I want to close on a lighter note of 3 excellent activity books for young children called Inside India, Fascinating Food. It's time for lunch, and I really hope there's marvelous food waiting for all of you on the occasion of Indian independence. There's Inside India, Amazing Historical Places, and Inside India, Festivals and Celebrations. 3 beautiful India-centric activity books with lots of fun stuff to do. I'm just going to show you pages. Now, this one is from the Amazing Historical Places one, and it does introduce you. It's not a mere activity book of joining the dots or, just doing, ordinary puzzles. Each one of these are set in the specific context that the book focuses on. Amazing Historical Places, Festivals and Celebrations, and Fascinating Food. Just look at it. Just look at these lovely little activities that children above the ages of 6 can do, with their parents, almost entirely focused on India. So 3 fascinating Inside India activity books published by HarperCollins, and each one, HarperCollins and Fun OK, please, each one priced at 250 rupees. So do check out our website, and please go to the bargains section, click bargains, because when you click bargains, all the books that we focused on, plus some that we don't have the time to focus on, are up at the Buzzaar, the Independence Buzzaar, at special Indian prices. Do check it out. They're going to be up on offer till Friday next week. If any of these books and recommendations interest you, please do consider picking them up. A quick round of thank yous and hellos. Hellos and thank yous. Girija Rams, lovely to see you. Preeti Ramchandran, I already said, hello, and these activity books are specifically for you. Mum, thank you so much for finishing school's Independence Day celebrations online and joining us online here this Sunday for the Independence Bazaar. Krupa, Abhirami Krishnaswamy, Shrija Ravindran, GP Singh, Quitty Marwa, Sohini Mitra, pleasure to see you. Bijoy Job, lovely to see you all here at the Independence Day Bazaar this morning. Thank you for taking time out and being with us. I just quickly want to have Bharti and Sujita come here because they're dressed in white for the occasion of Independence Day. Please come. We have them to thank for every single book that goes up on our website. It's a lot of work as a small team. We have 7,000 books in our collection, and we have only 1,500 of them up online. We have to put them up every week, and these are the girls who put them up every week, making sure book after book after book is available up for you, and also ensuring that you receive the books that you order. We have shipped out hundreds of our orders in the last 2 months, and if there have been no errors, the thanks goes to Bharti and Sujita from Funky Rainbow, who are so marvelously dressed in white. And if we had known, we would have come in white as well. I would, of course, no bazaar is complete without my two partners at Funky Rainbow, who have many of these ideas and who are always recommending and suggesting things that we can do to make our bazaars better and better. I would like to call Sham and Muttama just to say hello to all of you. Come, Muttama and Sham. This is the team that makes Funky Rainbow's wheels turn. This is the team that adds color to all our lives. So that's Sham, and that's, wherever, like ulta pulta. Sham and Muttama, from all of us at Funky Rainbow, thank you for joining us at the Independence Day Bazaar. Jai Hind.
Happy Independence.
Thank you so much.